they feel that if you stay there 5 years, you put down roots, you're going to be there for some time. My father and mother, they just, I don't think my mother especially, I think if been away 5 years, that would not have been what they would have wanted. So they settled for America. Then I had my Uncle Phil here, I had a bunch of cousins here. So I set my sights on coming to America.
And when did you come?
I arrived in America on the 30th day of September, 1965. I was 19. I was going to be 20 that year on Christmas. I'd set.
How did you travel?
Well, actually, I came here on a jet out of Dublin. I wrote to my Uncle Phil because I needed an affidavit from him that I would not be, at that time you had to have an affidavit of that you would not be living or collecting anything from any kind of assistance from America for the first 2 years that you were here. He would guarantee that while you were here for 2 years, you would not be, a burden on this country. That was the way it was at that time. So I went to, got my affidavit, got all my paperwork, went to the American Embassy in Belfast, and got all my papers from there, and took an oath that within 6 months I would register in the United States for the draft, which I did. And 1 year later, on the 13th of October 1966, I took a step forward and became part of the United States Armed Forces in Whitehall Street, New York City. And a part of my life there that I would never change. I look back at it with great memories. I was very lucky, but I look back at it with great memories. I went to boot camp in Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I was then picked to go to cook school, and that was my AIT, Advanced Infantry Training. But I went to cook school in Fort Jackson. I graduated there, and out of the class that graduated, I was picked. There was 3 people picked out to be the personal cook to the general. That was the general of Fort Jackson, the guy that ran the place. So we went on the interviews, and I wasn't that crazy. Well, it was good because Vietnam was there. You could end up going to Vietnam, and there's all this kind of thing. And we went on the interview. A lovely lady, his wife, and he had 2 daughters. I was about, 20, 21 at the time? I wasn't even 20. 21, I guess. These 2 gorgeous young ladies. I said, this could be dangerous. How could it be? Here I could end up at the stockade for these 2 ladies sitting around the house all day. But one of the things that happened, I was actually picked for that job, and I turned it down. There was one of the other guys that was with me. He was from Virginia, and he was much older. He would be maybe late 20s at this time. He was married with 2 children. Now, he could get his wife and kids to come down and live there, and that would have been a great thing. And I said, give it to him. He's a family man. I need to see the world. I need to travel around, and I didn't. I think he prayed for me probably every day after that. Maybe that's why I was so lucky. I went on to White Sands Missile Range, McAfee Army Hospital. I was a cook there and did dietitian work there. We were cooking, and worked there until I came down orders for Vietnam. And I was going to go to Vietnam in August of 1967, I guess. And went home to Ireland and, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. And but before I get there, there's a great story I got to tell you. When I got to White Sands Missile Range, the captain there said, you can't stay here. You're an alien. Like I came from Mars or something. I said, I didn't ask to come here. You sent me. I'm here. I'll go wherever you want, They set up to have set the motion going to have a background security clearance done for me. And they sent a helicopter from the American base at the time, Air Force Base in Derry, to my home in County Fermanagh. And the helicopter landed right there in front of the house down in the meadow there. I talked to my father and mother, went to the school, Marble Arch School, see where I went to school and all that kind of thing. And I got a security clearance to be in White Sands Missile Range. Now, that leads into when I went to Vietnam. I'm at Oakland Army Base, and I'm being shipped out. And I got called in, and to the office said, "Well, we're looking for a BI in your record." I said, "BI, background investigation." Well, I said, "They sent a helicopter to Ireland checking me out." She says, "Yeah, we did. We know they did that. We got a security clearance. We don't have a background investigation, and we're going through your records, blah, 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 whatever." So I said, "Well, what does it mean?" "It means you ain't going anywhere. You can't leave the country because you're an alien without a background investigation." And where do I go? Go out and get reassigned. So they asked me, "Well, where would you like to be reassigned?" I said, "Well," I'm thinking, where? I don't know. Fort Dix, close to, the East Coast. Well, the Army. They reassigned me to Fort Ord, California, Monterey Peninsula, Carmel Beach. It was like going on vacation. I got there. I was worked with a CDEC company. They were like an experimentation company in the best mess halls, best stuff coming in. Civilian chefs working with us. I put in 14 months out there, and it was just this is in the 1960s. Along the California coast in the 1960s, Big Sur. The Beach Boys were all singing about all their California songs, and everybody in California had a flower in their hair, and everybody loved everybody. It was the best place to be. So I was loving the war at the time.
So you never went to Vietnam?
Never went to Vietnam, thank God.
Yeah.
So somebody up there was praying for me. And I always remember the first sergeant of the group. The place his name was Sergeant O'Brien. He'd been in for years. He had more stripes on his arm. He says, in fact, he brought me out for a drink, and he said, "I want to just talk to you. If you want to stay in, you're a great soldier. We'd love to have you." And I was having a good time, and I'd made rank. I was Respect 5. And I was the first cook, and he said, "I need a mess sergeant." He said, "Sign up, and I'll make you're a sergeant immediately." So I said, it wouldn't take much for me to sign up, because I did like the life. It was good. I said, "But there's a war still raging on in Vietnam, and I got parents back in Ireland would not in the world understand why I would. They can't wait for me to be out of here. Why I would sign up." So he said he understood it, and I didn't. And I came back home to. At that time, I was living in Portchester with my uncle in the Bronx.
When you left Ireland, how did your family take that?
I think my father and mother knew that I know my father knew it. I'm sure my mother did too. My mother was very close to me. She probably didn't want to see her oldest leaving. And but my father knew I was definitely not a farmer, and knew I'd be better off doing something else. And they were very supportive of me. They came to me, and my father and mother both came to Dublin Airport with me the day I left. And as a matter of fact, I think they took a tour around the city that day. But they took it well. Of course, I did, though I did go home quite often after. My uncle took it very bad. My uncle was very, very. People tell me after that they went to some neighbor's house. He just said, it was the end of the world for him. He was my godfather, and he was very close. We were very close.
And he was the one that lived with you.
He lived with us, yeah, and he learned a lot from him. Learned a lot, stories and about life, and a lot of people think, well, you come from Northern Ireland, you're Catholic, you should hate everything English and all that kind of thing, And we were not brought up that way. We were brought up in a very mixed Catholic Protestant area with some great Protestant friends and very, very close people. We were brought up to respect people, respect England, and respect the British government, and respect the King and Queen, and respect what they were about. We just didn't agree with the way English policy was in Northern Ireland. We didn't agree with that. We didn't agree with how it was. We didn't like that end of it, and we would probably been from a political sense been more nationalist, absolutely. But you saw both sides. You never were to be looking blindly at one side, and I think that I have to thank my Uncle Tom for that.
Were you friendly with? Did you have friends that were Protestant?
Oh God, yeah. Oh God, yeah. You know, the thing was that in Florence Court's a very Protestant area, and I look back on it, and I look back, and you know, there's a thing that there'd be no such thing as me being a Catholic, that I would ever even think about dating a Protestant girl. It wouldn't. It was unthinkable. Or for her to even think about dating me. And I often thought, what a waste. Good Lord Almighty. You know, I knew Protestant girls. Are you kidding me? You'd melt of the look. But I mean, they were just wonderful people. And we were good friends, but you just didn't get the mix. And I think it was such a shame. And still such a shame. It's changing now. But such a shame that people were split apart by religion and politics and this whole idiotic thing that went on.
What was Christmas like?
Christmas was great. Christmas was my birthday, so it was great. And people say, "Were you cheating? You know, did you not get enough gifts?" Are you kidding? We were lucky we got gifts anyway. Even if your birthday fell sometime in the middle of the year, you didn't get nothing. They weren't like coming in with, you know, packages and stuff. You know, I just love it. You know, yeah, there were, you know, God, yeah, there was balloons out. You know, but Christmas, there was just that great thing about Christmas that was simple than what it is today. There was no out buying gifts. There was just, you know, Christmas Day. You had that great meal, you know, what it was turkey, pretty much. Sometimes I remember goose, but there was always a turkey or a goose, you know, and you were all right. And there was always, even when, you know, small and Santa Claus came, there were good gifts. And funny thing, I always got a book, or one year I got a paint set. I was great at painting, you know, and when I was a kid, I used to love to paint. And the person that came in handy there and was very good was Aunt Maggie in Belfast. She never married. She was the oldest of my father's family, his oldest sister. And she would send stuff to my mother and father to put in the Santa stocking. She would send the big books, you know. I had a book one time, Black Beauty, it was about a Scottish dog, you know, sheepdog, you know, like Lassie kind of thing, you know. And then we used to get the Beano comics, the big comic books. And they were great, you know. Those were great times. They would Christmas again as I got older. Just give you an idea. My brother, I remember my brother, myself, and some neighbours, a number of Christmases plucking turkeys. The week before Christmas, the turkeys would come in. There's this guy Armstrong's that had a big shop and they had this big warehouse there. We'd go down, you know, the evening time after school, you know, about 6 o'clock, 5, 6 o'clock. Turkeys are all in crates, you know. Take the turkey out. You had a rope hanging down from the ceiling with a noose on it. You stuck his legs in there, his neck across your, you know, and you started plucking before he got cold, because you can't pluck them if they get cold. So you got to get the feathers off. Now you plucked it, and you got a shilling for each turkey. So at the end of you know, you did that for a week or so, and you got you tallied up your turkeys. You know, each night you got your tally, and you got paid, and that money was brought home. And I give to my mom. Maybe keep a shilling or two for myself, but my brother, same thing. And on the last night that we're out plucking turkeys, I always remember Armstrong's, really great people. Come on in, get a box there, pick up some little, you know, whatever you like, cans of fruit or cake or that, and I'd have a few shillings. I always just get my father a 50 cigarettes, you know, the nice boxes, you know, then get a little something for my mother and something for my uncle. Maybe get him, and that was our little Christmas gift to them. It'd be small, you know. But that was what Christmas was simple, and then of course Christmas Day itself. Numerous times as a kid, I seen the mummers coming, which they call them the mummers or the straw boys, and that's where I had the background for the mummers, and my father was very involved with that, you know. And
talk a little about the mummers.
The mummers, you know, it's the mummers play. They came around at Christmas time, and in that part of the country, and in other parts of the country, not far from us, over in Cavan and Leitrim, you could have the Wren Boys, which were a kind of the mummers without rhymes type of thing. They were more in the music and singing and maybe dancing type of thing, where the mummers were more into the rhyme and the little play that they did. And they went from house to house, and they got money. Money was given to them. And then sometime after New Year's, or between Christmas and New Year around there, they'd have a mummers dance, and a house would be picked to have the mummers dance in, and people would be invited. Every house you went to, you went out and invited them. If they came, and that was it. So I was intrigued with that. It was just great to see that. And when I was about, I think about maybe, it was the year before I came to America, actually, I got a group of mummers going, and we went out, and did the rhyme, got all dressed, did the whole dress up, did the rhymes, and we collected quite a bit of money, and we had a dance, and the dance was at our house because, again, it was a big house, and we could accommodate it. And then I went to America, and then I think when the army, I went back. The first Christmas after I was in the army was on Christmas of '68, and I went back, and they wanted to do the mummers again. I said, "Oh yeah, son, you'll be captain." We got the group together, went out and did it again that Christmas, and it was again a great success and a lot of great memories. That was great memories of it. Again, we had another party and a dance, and I don't think we had a dance that. Actually, what we did that time, because the dance kind of got out, we collected the money, we give it to charity. We donated it that last time to charity. It was a funny thing that a reporter from, I think it was BBC, came to our house to record it, and did record it and put it on BBC later that summer. And one of the comments that was made was that basically everybody that was out in the mummers were pioneers. They were all non-drinkers. Of course, we drank later on in life. There was a lot of pioneers at the time.
What was the costume?
The costume we made was with red, green, and white ribbons coming down on what would be like a policeman's cap, a peaked cap with a white top on it and a red rim around it and a green peak, and then the ribbons come down. And then you'd have ribbons going across, and the doctor was always kind of somebody in a black outfit, with a hat, and Miss Funny, which was the lady that collect the money, that was she was dressed as a woman, so it could have been a guy, it could have been a woman, but usually it was a guy dressed as a woman, and they all had their rhymes, like, the captain, here comes I, Captain Mummer, and all my men, the door is open, we shall enter in, room, gallant boys, give us room to rhyme, we are the jolly mummers who come at Christmas time. Christmas comes but once a year, and when it comes it brings good cheer. We lack the old, we lack the age, we'll act what has never acted in any stage. We'll dance within, we'll dance without, we'll dance your house all round about, and if you don't believe in what I say, then enter in Beelzebub and clear the way. And then it went on from there, you had Beelzebub and Grand Turk and Prince George and Sir Patrick, and there was a fight, and one went down, and the doctor was called in, and all in rhyme. And then you had Miss Funny come in and collect the money, and of course there's a little dance done, the music came in, like here comes I who didn't come yet, big head and little wit, my head is big, my body is small, and I play you a tune will please you all, There was a lot of fun in it. There was, and respectability, I think, too. There was no carrying on or doing damage to property or anything. Everybody, you went to somebody's house, you didn't damage anything. You were very respectable, and that's how they liked it. There were some mummers that weren't, and they wouldn't have been allowed into houses and stuff. There's always you can always get the characters.
And the ribbons actually fall in front of your face.
Yes, yeah. The idea of mummering is to entertain from behind a mask. That's the word mummering. It really comes from, it's European, really. It's not like really, I would say, an Irish. It came to Ireland, but it came from Europe. It came. There was a lot of it done in England, and Scotland. There was those areas, and in France. And I believe even you could probably go over to some of the other Hungary and Poland. You might find something similar. And
you actually founded that in our community here.
Yes, yeah.
Were you involved in sports when you were in Ireland?
I was not a big sports person. And out of my family, I was probably the least. All of the others did. I kicked a bit of football, around, but nothing major. Gaelic football would have been what we'd been following. But I was the kind of guy that would pass up a game of football to go watch a play. and I would come home, and I could recite the whole play to my father, from beginning to end, everybody's piece, everybody's part. And that's what I loved to sit there and watch plays. I want movies as well, you know. We didn't get too many to get them too often, but I loved live play. I loved the live stage, just to be around it.
Is there a lot of it in your area?
There was a lot of amateur. You know, they did in amateur groups they had. There was quite a few. But every year, a professional group would come to the village of Black Lion, and they would set up in Mooney's Hall. They didn't put up a tent or anything. There was a big dance hall there, and they would set up on the stage there, and they put on a show and a different play every night for a week. Wow. And if you know, it was similar. What reminds me of it was the movie, the Playboys, that was made about Ireland in County Cavan, actually, in Red Hills, County Cavan, a few years ago. You see that you might see it on TV here every. So it was made there about maybe less than 10 years ago, in a little place called Red Hills, and I went to visit it when I was home there about 4 years ago. I went to Red Hills one day, and there's one pub in there. It's got everything on there about the Playboys. I can't remember any of the Milo O'Shea. He was one of the people, and there's another young fellow in it. There was a good Albert Finney was in it, the English actor, Irish English actor. But it's seen on it comes on TV every so often, and so that was the kind of group that came to town and did the plays, and they did a little concert before. There'd be maybe a singer or dancer, or joke, or somebody telling a comedian, telling a few jokes and that type of thing, or doing recitations, and that I was very interested in that kind of stuff.
And that's continued throughout your life. You're still involved in
very much. Yeah, loved it.
But you're also a terrific dancer.
Well, yeah, I like dancing. I got no background in dancing as far as step dancing or any type of thing like that. When I grew up, you had there was dancing around, but I could just imagine coming to my father and say, "Oh, Dad, I'd like to take some dancing lessons." Yeah, how about dancing up to the mountain there, looking after some sheep or cattle or whatever, and dancing out to the field, and get some work done. Boys were not allowed to do that, and when I was about, you'd be about maybe 14, 15, 16 before you got to go to a dance. Believe me, you did not go, especially the oldest. And then when you went to the local parochial hall to a ceilidh. Strictly ceilidh music, out doing the different, and I remember even like doing the ceilidh music, and nobody ever taught me, but the minute I went on the floor, I could swing, I could dance. It was just seemed natural to me. I was very, just listen to the music, and I just went. And then I got to go to a real ballroom, the real hall, where the adults went. And it was about, I bet you I was 17, over 17, when I was allowed to go there, maybe getting close to 18, in that area. And I may be about 17, I think, yeah. And I always remember going to that dance hall. The first tune I ever got on that big floor, this was the big floor, the real, and on the slow tune, and I took this gal out to dance, and it was a Ray Charles number. Yeah. Take these chains from my heart and set me free. I always remember that. Ray Charles singing it. Remember his numbers. And I used to take these chains from my feet. And I always liked dancing. I enjoyed it. In fact, in the Rainbow Ballroom in Glenfarne, the Ballroom of Romance, still there. And we would go there, that was Sunday night. There could be a dance maybe Wednesday night. There might be 2 or 3 dances a week in the Rainbow. And, of course, money wasn't plentiful. So any time you could get in free was always good. And I used to get in for the rest of my time in Ireland. Once I was dancing, I used to get in for my last year probably there. I got in for free to the Ballroom of Romance. And the reason, there was about 10 of us that got in free. John McGovern was the guy that owned it. And you'd have the gals on one side, and all the guys on the other side, and the band up there playing. And God forbid anybody get on the floor, you see, without a crowd, And the boys would be over there looking over, like taking a look, and the lassies would be sitting there, come on, ask me. Our job was to get them on the floor. So if you had 5 or 6 or 10 guys there, and they got 10 gals on the floor, well, get out. Now you get everybody moving. So you got the dance started earlier. That was our job. And boy, I used to love it because a big, big floor there, big hall, and you'd be out dancing, and you'd always have a couple of gals picked out that were good dancers, And so, yeah, so that's where I got my dance.
What time did the dances start?
9 o'clock. Again, at that time it was 9. It's got a lot later now. But they were over by 12:30. 9 to 12:30. There was they were over by. There was a big in different parishes. That was the church played a deal in what time dances started and finished, especially finished. And in the parish of Clogher, where this dance hall was, it was 12:30.
And now music's a big thing for you. I mean, you run music programs on radio.
Yep, I did. We started in 1969. My cousin and I, we did started a radio show in Greenwich, and we figured we'd run it for about 13 weeks or whatever the contract would be up, and we went 32 years. Yeah. So, and then that was every Sunday. A big commitment because you were responsible for that hour. If you didn't show up, you probably wouldn't be there the following week. You had to be there. You had to cover. If you weren't there, that somebody would be there or tape a show. And we did shows on St. Patrick's Day and that kind of thing. Loved doing it. Loved radio. Loved talking. And when you get an audience, so enjoyed it. There were some great stories and stuff told to us over the year. One of the ones that sticks out in my mind that I'll never forget, and I tell it time and time again, I don't even know the people anymore, but in the early days, the two of us were doing, the people used to call it the McGovern brothers, even though we're not, we're cousins. And you'd get invited to like a party after. Some people would be maybe having a party. Oh, could you guys stop over? And so I remember going to a house in Greenwich and going in, there was a lot of people there, and some lady come up and said, "Are you the McGovern boys?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Oh, so delighted to see you." She says, "My mother died halfway through your show." Yeah, was it that bad? And she used to look forward to listening to it every Sunday. We'd have to put the show on, and she'd look forward to it. We just thought it was so beautiful that she passed away while the Irish music was playing. So they looked at it, that was a really nice thing, that they just went off, and so that was one of the nicest stories.
So you finished 32 years and now you've started another one.
Finished 32 years, and after that, Peg O'Connor came to me and said, "Would you like to do a show once a month?" So now I'm doing a show once a month on Feile with Peg, 2 hours on Sunday morning. And and it's fun. I like doing it. It's a lot of fun. And it's kind of the kind of thing I love to do.
And you do disc jockeying?
I do DJ work as well. That kind of tied in. Did DJ work for probably the last 10 or 12 years. And I kind of just started out of somebody saying, well, could you maybe put on, we're doing a benefit actually. And I rented equipment because it was cheaper than getting a band. Because the problem was that bands was charging so much that people couldn't afford to run a benefit. You were giving it all to the band. And now I get work. I don't do, it's not like something I do for a living. I've never really looked at it for a living. And probably we do more for free than we ever get paid for, because a lot of it is benefits. But it is there that we go out and you do a benefit or whatever, and when we do get paid, we get paid just a minimum to cover costs, because you're still buying stuff, you still maybe have the rent stuff, and so basically you cover costs, and we buy a lot of the CDs, and so we do more. And when I say we, myself and another fellow that has a partner with me, because the two of us go, or one of us go, depending on what the gig might be. But we do it, and it's a lot of fun. I've got one coming up. St. Patrick's Day is busy. The people do need you, because we do have a good collection of Irish. And we know what kind of Irish to play that people like. I mean, if you go to a regular DJ and you want Irish, well, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get Irish Eyes Are Smiling, or, you know, the Irish Washerwoman or something like that, where we have a really good tradition, good selection of dancing Irish music, you know. Plus, I like to dance and enjoy dancing. So when I play to an audience, I know what they're looking for. I can read them very, very quickly. What kind of music they're looking to dance to, and all people want is nice dance music, whether it be rock and roll, slow dancing, and you know, if you're out there playing rock and roll, if you're playing it all night, nobody's going to be dancing there because you just tire them out. Yeah. You know, so you mix it up. And the biggest mistake that anybody ever makes as a DJ is making yourself the star.
Yeah, makes sense.
The people on the floor are the stars of your show. They're the people that are making you look good because they're up dancing. You read them, give them for what they want, and compliment them on what they're doing, and you'll have done a good show. Yeah.
How did you meet Sharon?
Yeah. Well, I met my wife at the New Englander Hotel in Greenwich. Ooh. At an Irish dance. Sharon was an Irish step dancer. Her name was Murphy, and came from a very Irish family, even though there was like fifth generation from people from Cork. Her mother was French. My mother Feile was French-German background, and I thought she was more Irish than her father, who was Murphy, because she was very involved with the Feshes in Stanford and all that type of thing. And we were at a dance there was a benefit dance for some of the Hibernians in Greenwich, and I met her there. In fact, we had a dance, and the first time that we danced, and we were going, that she thought I was married. Yeah, because Phil and I had started doing the radio show, and this was probably, I met her in about, I'm thinking 1970 or something like that, and we had just started the show the year before. And one of the things we used to end up the show at the time was a word from my mother-in-law, because Phil had a mother-in-law. He was married, so he'd always say, well, we're going to finish up tonight. Do we have any words of wisdom from your mother-in-law? You know, and I used to say, and then people, so that night at the dance, everybody was going, hey, Noel, how's your mother-in-law? You know, so Sharon's what the hell are they talking about? You married? You know, like, you know? So she thought, he's got a mother-in-law, he's married, you know. And then after that, I called her or talked to her or whatever, and we went on a date. And she was step dancing at a dance in Danbury, and she said, well, I've got something on such and such a night, and I said, well, I'll drive you up. Let's make it a date. And then I got lost in Danbury, you know. So I said, this is going to be great. Calling up your dad and saying I'm lost up in Danbury, and we could daughter her 2 o'clock in the morning, or whatever time it was, trying to get back. Yeah, and we got married in 1972, and it stuck, and we're still there. She's still stuck with me, and we got one son, Terence, and I think we probably brainwashed him into being Irish too. So. He's a great dancer. He got well, my wife was Sharon was a professional step dancer. She got her TCRG when we were on our honeymoon in Ireland in 1972. Went up to Dublin and she got that, which allowed her to. We started when we got married first, because we had the McGovern School of Irish Dance in Stanford, and a lot of the people were young kids then. She taught them how to dance. She taught them the step dancing.
What is TCRG?
Oh God, something got to do with Teachers Associated. I have no idea. TCRG and ATCRG are believe me, it's hard to get. It is to do it. She had to sit through and I remember this because there was a big party at ours. We had went on a honeymoon. My mother gave us this big party, you know, it was like another wedding, and she had put in to get this test. She had requested it. The test was the next day. We didn't know this until like 2 days before or something, and I had to drive her up to Dublin with a hangover that it knocked you down. The party went till about 4 or 5 in the morning. We got about 1 or 2 hours sleep, and we're off to Dublin. And we get up there, and they give this test, and the first part of the test was she sits there with this note paper, whatever, and she has to identify name, the name of the tune, the beat, the number of bars, you know, the speed, you know, all this kind of stuff. And there's a guy over there with a fiddle, you know, the violin, you know, and he starts off, okay, number one, you know, number two, same. It sounded like the same tune to me. She named them all, you know. Now the next part, there was a written part as well, which she had you know, all about, you know, Irish music, all that kind of stuff. And then there was the teaching part, which you had to actually bring in kids and teach them. So, and then from that's you go through. It's a whole day thing. Oh, I would have lost. Tough test. And I couldn't believe that she did. I said, that's fantastic, you know. And so then we came back after our honeymoon. We came back and we settled back in an apartment in Byram, which I of course was working with the water company. I'd started working with the water company, and she started McGovern School of Irish Dancing and did that for a number of years, you know, which was a lot of fun too, you know.
She's a great dancer.
Oh yeah. So we have always danced together, and we've always enjoyed it. You know, it's been fun.
When you were a kid at home, did you speak Irish in the house at all?
No. The only Irish I ever said would be Anna Manahar Agus a Vic. You know, my father would bless himself in Irish. But we're in the north of Ireland, so there was no Gaelic taught in school at all, and actually. You know, we had cousins in the south, you know, across the border in Cavan. They were going to school and they were learning the Gaelic, you know. And we were like, God, thank God, we don't have to learn that. Yes, it's bad enough trying to do the English thing. Let's lucky imagine you got to do this Gaelic thing as well. God, thank God we're living over here. And of course, also in Northern Ireland at that time, everything was better north of the border. There's no doubt about it. Because I would visit, you know, with my cousins in Glangevlin, across the border. I loved going to Glangevlin. It's a wonderful spot, lovely people, great place. But economically, it was not in the same category. Not that we had a heck of a lot more, but economically, the north was definitely better. You know, yeah, there's no doubt about it.
When you came here, you made friends mostly in an Irish community?
Yes, I would say yes. I think if one of the things that really helped me when you came here was actually going to the army. It Americanized you. It Americanizes you to the food, to the ways of America, I think, to the history of America, you become more involved, you know. And I think that is still part of the Irish community, but you also in other areas as well. You from work, you know, you're getting very much involved at work. I went to work with American Water Company in Portchester. Started as a meter reader on the first Monday of March in 1969, you know, and actually finished my career yesterday on the end of February 2005, 36 years. So, yeah, I would say mostly we were very involved with the Irish community, especially through the radio, doing the show. Kept you always trying to be attuned to what was, especially in the music end of what was coming out, and also keeping trend of what was going on news-wise, because that was all part of the thing, and I think that's why even to today, I keep I'm very up on what's going on in Ireland, both north and south of the border. You know,
you keep that on your computer.
I read the Irish papers every day. You know, yeah.
You used a couple of phrases that I'd like you to say. Shebeen. Tell us what a shebeen is.
Well, a shebeen is kind of, you know, goes back to the little old pubs, or would have been a drinking place, you know, really. It kind of been. I used the shebeen because it was where my great grandfather died, yes. And it would have been a little country pub, is really what it would have been. And there's few of them. There are a few left, you know, here and there throughout Ireland, in country places. There's one in Glangevlin. It's not a shebeen. It's it's a pretty nice place now. You know, there's nothing, you know, about a shebeen about it. But the shebeen was a little pub, really, in a little local pub where the locals went. And I have, you know, I was born at a time in 1945 that I got to look into that old world that 10 years later was gone, and 20 years later was totally disappeared. The difference, the change of times from, and there's only 12 years between me and my younger brother. 12 years. It's like an eternity. The difference when he was brought up and when I was brought up. And of course, today it's like a whole different world. A whole different world. But I do, and I love to remember the old, there was like a little old shop, Brady's shop. And we used to get sweets, and we went with the neighbors that we worked with. And Brady, Alfie, and Jack Brady would be there. And they'd weigh the candy into the little package and put the little weight